Hi, it's Jordan Teen 1, and today I'm going to show you how to make this really awesome tulip stitch. I actually saw this tulip stitch made into a blanket at a baby shower, and I thought it was really neat. So you can see for this one at the top, I just made one row. I think it would make a really cute bracelet or headband. And then if you want to, you can actually build the rows on top of one another. So you could make a larger project like a purse or maybe a blanket for a baby doll. And you may notice that the bottom tulips are changing color. Your eyes are not deceiving you because these are the new solar bands from Rainbow Loom. So I think they're pretty awesome. I had them in the sun when I started the tutorial, and now they've changed back to their original color. The number of bands that you'll need really depends on the project that you're making. So if you wanted to make a bracelet, for example, you'll probably need to make a chain of somewhere around 30. And so that would mean you would need approximately 150 bands for the background color. And then for each tulip that you're going to make, you would need 3 of whatever color you want the bud to be, and then 2 green for the leaves. So I'm just going to make a sample. I'm going to make 4 flowers just to show you how to do this. And then once you know the technique, you can decide what project you would like to make. The first thing that you're going to do is to make the chain. And the number of bands that you use is going to determine the length of your project. So you'll need to chain in multiples of 3, and then you'll also need to add 2. So I'm going to be using 14 rubber bands, so my multiple of 3 was 12, and then I added 2. So to make a chain, it's really pretty easy. You just take a band and double it on your hook. You just twist and put it back on so you have the 2 loops. And then you just want to pull 1 through at a time and get it back on your hook. And then I like to use a clip for the band on the end. It's not necessary, but they tend to separate and get a little bit wild. So that just keeps them together, and it also gives you a little something to grab onto. And then you're just taking 1 through at a time, getting it back on your hook. And if you pull down on the chain as you're pulling that band through, it does help from it getting hung up. So as I've said, the number of bands that you need is going to be determined by what project you're making. So for example, if you want to make a bracelet, you're probably going to need to chain somewhere around 30 and then plus 2. So you would either need 32, or maybe you want to chain 27 plus 2, so you would need 29. So as your chain grows, you can just measure it on your wrist to see what size you think you'll need. And so here's our chain of 14. In row 1, we're going to do 1 single crochet into the chains, and the number of bands you need is going to be that multiple of 3. So for example, we chained 14, but our multiple of 3 was 12. So I have 12 rubber bands. And I'm going to start in the second chain from where the hook is. So we're skipping this next chain and going to the chain before that. And you're just going to go in through the front. You can see where your hook is going front to back. You want to again do front to back. You want to make sure you go through both of those loops. You're taking your first rubber band, it's going to pull through, back on your hook, so you have 4 loops to start, and then the one on the end pulls through the other 3. Go to your previous chain, you're going to pull through that next band, back on your hook, and now this time you have just 3 loops, and the one on the end pulls through the other 2. So you're just going to repeat that pattern all the way to the end. So it pulls through, and then 1 goes through the other 2. Just make sure every time that you're pushing through from the front, and also make sure that you're going under both loops. And if you feel like you're having a hard time just using your hook, you can use your fingers to help pull the bands over. For example, you can just grab these two and pull them over. But I think once you get comfortable with it, it's definitely much easier to use your hook. And you can just zip right through it. So you're going to go all the way to your last chain. And here's my last one. And then you just want to straighten this out a little bit. In row 2, we're going to start to add the leaves. And so as far as your band count goes, you're going to need 2 green bands and then 3 background color bands for each one of your tulips. And then you'll also need 2 additional background bands, one at the start and then one at the finish. So I have these laid out how we're going to be making them. And I believe that the stitch is called a V stitch because we want to get that V shape with the green bands. And so you have your rows here, and you'll notice that I did flip my work over, so the hook is now over on the right hand side. And this time what's going to be a little bit different is we're going to be going in from the back side. So we're going to start on the first one here, and now we're going to be working in the stitches since we just had our chain for the first row. And a stitch is like a little sideways V that we're going to be going through. So you should have your band on your hook, and there's this first stitch that this band is coming up through. You want to push from back to front through there. Or again, you want to get the 2 loops on there. Same thing that we did with the chain. And you're going to pull through, get it back on your hook, so you have the 3 loops, and 1 pulls through the other 2. Now we're going to the next stitch over to the left here, and again you're always going back to front. We're going to start with the green. That's going to pull through and go back on your hook. Now you're not going to pull through like you do with a single crochet. This is more of a half double crochet. I'm going to take a second band, this time it's going to be white, and now this one is going to pull through all 3 loops and go back on your hook. So you're going to be left with the 2 loops, and then we're going to chain 1, and it's going to be whatever your background color is. So I'm going to chain through another white, and then I'm going back through this same stitch where the first green was, back to front, pull through the green, back on your hook, and then the last one for this flower, you're taking your background color and it's going to pull through all 4 and back on your hook. And now we want to skip 2 of these stitches. So you can see where our green was. We're going to skip the next one, skip the next one, and go to the next one, pushing through here. So we'll do our next pattern. We're just repeating that. So we're going green comes through and back on your hook, and then a white is going to pull through all. So it's going to pull through the 2 green and then your 2 background color, back on your hook. And now you want to chain 1. This part's easy to forget, but you're just going to chain 1, and then you're going to go back through that same stitch where the green is, pull through your second green, you have the 4 loops, and that last one for this flower is going to pull through all 4 loops and back on. Now here comes the part where we skip. So we're skipping the next 2, going to the one after that. I'll pull through my green, and then take my background color. It's going to come through all 4, and if you pull down while you're pulling through, it's going to help you from getting hung up. Now we have our chain 1, back through the same, and we're doing green, feel like this is twisting on me here. Do green, and then the white, or whatever your color is, pulls through all. And now I'm skipping 2. You're going to pull through the green, and then the next one goes through all 4. You need to do that chain 1, back through, the next one pulls through all 4, and then you should have 1 left when you get to the end. I know I'm only doing a small section, but whenever you get to the end you should have 1 left here, 1 stitch to go through. So you're just going through and you're taking your last band, and this time you're going to do like a regular single crochet, so you're just pulling through the first 2. Now you want to get the other end back on your hook. So again, you do have the 4 loops, but the one on the end is going to pull through the other 3. Whoops, just lost it there. And then you're going to turn this over. In row 3, we're going to start to add the flowers themselves, and you can see how I have it laid out here. So for your band count, you're going to need 1 background color to start, and then 2 to finish the row off. And then for each flower, you'll need 3 of whatever color you want your flower to be, and then 1 of your background that's going to tie it all together. And then in between each of the flowers, you're going to need 2 of your background color. So hopefully everyone got that. So you can see I flipped this over again, so now my hook is over here on the right. And since we flipped it, we're going to go back to doing the same pattern where we're going through from front to back. So again, I'm going through this very end stitch here. I'm pushing through under both loops, front to back, and I'm going to pull through my first band and do a regular single crochet. And now we're going to start the flower. So this is a little different. We're not going through the stitch here, we're actually going underneath of it. So if I pull this apart, you can see this is where we did our chain 1. There's this opening in between the V shape of the green bands and this top chain. So that's actually the hole that we want to go in. So I'm just pushing through there. I'm going to pull through 1 of my colored band and get it back on my hook. So I have 3 loops. I'm going to just hold these back with my finger, and you might want to stretch this apart a little to make sure you're going through the right spot. You're going through that opening again. You're going to pull through your second band and get it back on your hook. So you have 5 loops, and then 1 more time you're going through that same opening and pulling through your last one of this color. So at this point you have 7 loops, and you're taking the same background color that's going to pull through everything on your hook. So again, if you pull down, it makes it easier to slide through. Go through that one at the base of your hook as well, and get it back on, and then 1 pulls through the other 2. So I consider that a puff stitch. It's the same thing I did with my Easter puff basket. And now what we want to do is go through the next 2 stitches and do a single crochet with your background color. So this one here that the green is also through is what we're going to go through from front to back. So you're just doing a single crochet in that one, and then in the next one again a single crochet, and then that should take you up to your next flower, where again we're going to go through this opening in between here. So I'm pushing through, and I'm going to do my blue flower next. So pulling through the first one, you have 3 loops, back through again, pull through my second one, I have 5 loops, and then back through 1 more time, and at this point I have 7 loops. And now I have my one that's going to tie these all together. So pull down and then slide these through, go through all, back on your hook, and then one through the other. And then if you want to, you can mess around with it later, but I like to take my thumbs and just squeeze these together to make sure they're all up against one another. So my next one here, again, it's where the green is through. I'm going to do my 2 single crochet. So that's 1, and then a second. Now I'm over to my next flower. I'm going to find that opening and push through. So now I'm doing pink. So that's 1, 2, and then a third. And now I have my band that's going to tie these together. Don't forget to go through all. One pulls through the other. And then again where the green is, I'm doing my first single crochet. And then I have a second. And then I'm up to my last flower here, so go in that opening. Let me just move these bands over. And this time I'm doing purple. So that's 1, 2, and 3. Now I have to get these all together. One through the other. And then at the end here, I should have one left that I'm going through. And that takes me to the end. And now I also have to go back through that same one again, just so that my stitch count is correct to the next row. So let me just do that now. Now for the 4th and final row, you're going to do 1 single crochet into the stitches, although we will be skipping some, and I'll show you that in a second. But for your band count, you're going to need whatever your multiple of 3 was, plus 1. So I have 13 rubber bands here, and since we did flip this again, you want your hook on the right. We're going to go in through the back this time. We have to change every time we flip it. So I'm going into the first stitch here, back to front, and I'll do my first single crochet. And then I'm moving over to the next one and doing a single crochet in that. And now what we're going to be skipping is the band that's directly above the flower. So this very next one we're skipping, and we're going to the one to the left of that, doing that single crochet. And now I have 2 more stitches that I'm going to do before I go to my next flower. So that's 1, and now a second one. Now this next one is right above the flower, so I'm skipping that. Going to the next one. So we have that one, and then 2 more. So that's 1, and then 2, and that'll bring us to our next flower. We're skipping the next one. And then we have 2 before we get to the next flower. So that's 1, and then 2. We're skipping this next one, and then here's the last one in this row. You should have 2 left when you get to the very last one. We're doing 1 And then we also need to go through that a second time just to even this out here. And then let me just remove this clip that I had started with, since we really don't need that on there. And I'll use that to get that loose band that's on my hook. And then you might have to do a little bit of adjusting. As I said, I like to take my thumbs and sort of wiggle this and push the actual color part together. I think it makes it look a lot neater. And you can even it out. Sometimes it's a little bit, the flowers are pushed more to the front or the back, so you want to try and get them in the middle. But here is our tulip stitch. So if you wanted to add to this, make it taller, what you would do is just continue on. I would do a couple of rows in between here. I would say maybe like 3 rows or 4 rows. You can use your judgment, whatever you think. And then you would just start this process all over again with the row of leaves and then the row of the actual flowers. I hope that everyone loves their new tulip stitch creations. You can always leave me comments on YouTube and Facebook, post pictures of your creations to my Facebook page, and please feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can stay up to date on my latest tutorials. You can also find me on Pinterest and Instagram, so please feel free to subscribe to those as well. Thanks for watching!